Welcome to Urban Knife Guy, where we discuss knives for city dwellers. Today we're going to have a look at the Buck 422 and see if it makes for a good urban EDC. Buck knives need no introduction. It is a very established knife brand with over 110 years of experience of making knives. There's a lot of history behind the brand and their knives. They make fixed blade and folding knives. In terms of folding knives, the Buck 110 and 112 are iconic and classic American knives. I don't have a box for this knife, as this is the very first single blade folding knife that I ever owned. It is not my first knife, as I had a Victorinox Swiss Army knife, but I hold this 422 close to my heart as it was my scouting, camping and military outfield knife that I used for years. Let me show you the knife first, and then I'll show you how I got this knife. This generation of the 422 came with this nylon sheath that is a Velcro opening. Subsequent versions came with a different style case with a snap button flap. And here we have the knife. This knife has been discontinued but was first introduced in 1984 as part of the BuckLite family of knives. This Model 422 BuckLite was fashioned after the finger-grooved 112 Ranger and used the same modified clip-style blade of that model. The handle is made of Valox, a polyester resin designed by GE Plastics. It combined excellent electrical properties, high strength due to low water absorption, and very good heat resistance. All the models made during this first generation of BuckLites, that's 1984 to 1987, were built from two pieces of Valox sandwiched on either side of the blade. Subsequently, all were one-piece construction. And if you look at this, you can see the seam line for this particular one here. But you can see it's quite very well done because on the butt, you can't see the two seams. There's no pop clip, but there is a lanyard hole. The blade is made from 420HC with the Bose heat treatment. As with all the Buck knives with this blade steel, it is a proven tested worker. The blade length is 3 inches long. The handle is 4 1/4 inches long for an overall length of 8 1/4 inches. It is pretty lightweight. After all, it is named BuckLite. But let's weigh it here. And in ounces, it's 2.65 ounces. And in grams, just under 75 grams. So pretty lightweight. The blade is a clip point style blade with a hollow grind and satin finish. This is quite, I guess, an iconic blade shape from Buck knives, especially the clip point. And this blade has been sharpened over the years, as you can see, lots of scratches. Now, the knife did not come with this thumb stud. This is an aftermarket product, and I added this only recently. Now, for the years that I used this knife, it has always been a two-handed opener. There is a nail nick, but there's enough material to just open it just like that. But this is the brand of the thumb stud. So basically, you just put it on and use the Allen key, which they provide, and you tighten it in place. And you get a great one-hand deployment mechanism. And quite a few people do add this to their Bucks, like the 110 and the 112. This is a lock back knife, so it's deep lock back. You actually press that and that closes up. There is a bit of a blade play, both up and down and side to side. But honestly, back in the day, I had no idea of things about blade play, and the knife still worked for me just fine. But so while there's a bit of blade play, I'm not sure if this is just due to time for the knife, but it did not affect the functionality of the knife and still doesn't. Let's do some comparisons with some other knives that you might be familiar with. We have the Spyderco Para 3. So the Buck, just slightly longer. We have the Ontario Rat 2. Also just under 3 inches in length in terms of the blade. The CRKT Pillar 3 in D2 steel. And I guess let's take out another Buck knife. And there we have the Buck Sprint Select. You can see similar clip point style blade, but this is bigger and there's this knife's grooved on top. And finally, as usual, an Altoids tin. Here's something interesting about Buck knives. They always put a date code on their blades that indicate the year of production. So if you can see here, that's Buck 422 and there is kind of an arrow pointing to the right. So that's the date code. I recently checked the code for the first time and I learned that this knife was made in 1987. Now let me tell you how I learned about this knife. I was a trainer at a leadership camp in school and was selected as I was a scout. The only other scouts chosen was a Sea Scout from a different troop. I'd never heard of a Sea Scout until then. I mean, all scouts I knew were hiking, camping, and doing bushcraft on land. How would you do that at sea? But they must be really good at knots. Anyway, he owned a model of the 422, which I now know was the 412 Scout Light, using the same design, size, and materials as this knife. But it had a red handle and the Boy Scouts of America's official knife designation etched on the blade. It was the first time I'd ever seen a single blade folding knife, and it was even cooler since it was a scout knife. He told me he got it from a camping gear shop in town, so after the camp, I went to the shop to see if it was available. It was not. It was all sold out. I was terribly disappointed, but they had this black one in stock, which of course I bought. It must not have been more than $15 to $20 at the time, otherwise I would not have been able to afford it. I've used this knife for years as a scout and also when I was in the military service. And after almost 25 years, I still have the knife and it is still in great condition. So the golden question is, does the Buck 422 make for a good urban EDC knife? I would say yes if you're looking for a lightweight, sturdy, US-made knife. It has got great ergos because of the finger grooves. It is a great slicer due to the grind, and I know it works well in the field for light bushcraft and camping tasks. I honestly did not really use this as an urban EDC, but definitely it could function, and I definitely use it a lot at home. Personally now, I prefer a more modern folder with a one-handed deployment and smoother action. In fact, this Buck Sprint Select is my folder of choice for outdoor use now, and I'll review this in a future video. Now, the only downside of owning this Buck 422 now would be the price. Because if you're to buy one now, because it's discontinued, you will have to pay more on the secondary market. The average selling price for this knife I've seen is about US $50 to $70. But if you're a knife collector, you would likely want this knife. It is quite a popular collectible, and there are models with several different colors. The modern day version of this knife is likely the 112 Slim Select, which has similar characteristics, but it does not have the finger groove handles. The handles are no longer Valox, but made of nylon. I assume this is glass reinforced nylon, also known as FRN or fiberglass reinforced nylon. While it is similar, the 112 Slim Select is a very different knife from this 422. So what do you think of the Buck 422? Do you have one? Let me know in the comments below. If you've got any information to add about this knife, or if you've just got some thoughts, please let me know in the comments below as well. If you liked the video, please give it a thumbs up. And if you like the content in general, please subscribe to the channel and hit that notification bell. As always, keep it folded, keep it safe.